Hi, I'm Davina Rutherford and you're watching Minding Your Business Who's Trending, and we're on location in the heart of Grand Bahama, Churchill Square. And we'll be bringing to you trailblazers, pace setters, and young and up-and-coming entrepreneurs. This afternoon, we have Vincent Pedican. Good afternoon, Vincent. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon, Davina. How you doing today?
How's it being back home?
It's been great being able to see family, friends. Some people I've seen over the last few years, other people I haven't seen in 10 years. Right. So it's been an amazing trip so far.
And as you can see, so much has changed with downtown.
Yes.
How do you feel about the changes and what's to come with Freeport?
Well, I think Freeport has the ability to definitely grow. I know there's been some challenges since the hurricanes over about a decade ago, but I think Freeport has the right players to be the catalyst to bring that change about. And being here in the Churchill Square with so much history behind it, I think it's great to have this interaction, this conversation between you and I here in this setting.
Very well indeed. And with that being said, you're an 80s baby, and we grew up with Nintendo and Atari. What was your favorite toy growing up as an 80s baby?
My favorite toy was the Nintendo, Mario, the game that came with it, and it was just one of those things. I think the biggest thing for me was the duck hunt. Right. I got to shoot a gun, just a little duck, right. Pow, 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 But
well, I used to cheat. I used to put the gun right up to the TV.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, so the Nintendo gaming system I've been trying to find one actually on eBay, but people outbid me all the time, because I don't, when you talk about $1,500 for Nintendo,
oh, no.
I say I'm good.
It's not that. And we'll stay with the 80s. In primary school, people always ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yes.
What did you aspire to be in primary school?
Well, actually, I inspired to be a lawyer. That was the first thing, because I like to talk. People say I have this gift to gab. I don't
right.
believe it, but I can talk my way. I used to talk my way out of a lot of discipline and stuff from my parents, my mother, and especially. So so I wanted to be a lawyer, and I still think about it from time
right.
to time. But that's what I wanted to do. It's interesting. It's a big change from being a lawyer to what I am now today.
It's never too late to go back to school.
It's very true. It's very true.
And if you had to tagline the last decade, what would you tag it as?
Wow. Think big. And what I mean about thinking big, over the last decade, I've been privileged enough to sit down under the mentorship of a lot of successful businessmen and women who've been kind of like mentors, giving me sound advice in my professional career, as also in my and when it comes to being a small business owner. So and they always told me to think outside the box, and don't limit your abilities to where you're at, right. because you have the ability to go farther. Right. So think big has been like what I've been pushing over the last decade. And
I'm glad you mentioned mentors. Can you tell us how important having a mentor is as a young person and an entrepreneur?
Wow, it's they say about knowledge, you learn something new every day. And the minute you stop learning is the minute you're no longer breathing.
Right.
So the ability to have mentors, who can help you when it's the high points and also the low points in business, because you're not always going to have things, if you're in selling products, merchandise, you're not always going to have things selling off the shelf hot. Right. Sometimes you're going to have those low seasons. You shouldn't get discouraged. And I think anyone who is into business, they should have a mentor, because they can be the one to say, hey, listen, it's tough right now, but you can weather that storm. Just follow this guideline. And it's good to reach out to people who have gone through that as well, because they can help you kind of charter that course.
And I'm sure you have a number of mentors as you are very well traveled.
Yes.
And through all of the different countries and the different cultures, which culture would you say is most like the Bahamas?
Wow. Okay. So, of course, in the Bahamas, every time you go into the store, you say good morning. Right. But I think the country that I traveled to that really was kind of similar was Italy. I took a trip to Italy for about 2 weeks, and it was a lot of buongiorno, 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 you know, and it was so great to see that, because 9 times out of 10, a lot of European countries you go into, if you say morning, people look at you kind of crazy, but in Italy, in Rome especially, it was really great. Very friendly, very outgoing, and very hospitable as well.
And apart from culture, you've been blessed to interview a number of people. Which interview has the most effect on you, the lasting effect on you?
Well, the lasting effect, the interview that did was interview with Dan Rather. I was in Afghanistan, and he came for a visit, and what he said, something that was so profound about journalists. He said about writing. Journalists never stop writing. You should never stop writing as a journalist. And I think he said a lot of people, a lot of journalists per se, they lose their craft because they stop writing. You know, they get to a place, they feel comfortable, and then they're good. But he said if you learn to always write, you know, change your writing style up, it will definitely catapult you and in your career, you know, to higher heights. So that interview is the one that stuck with me. And plus it's Dan Rather. We also, it was funny, he's a avid fisherman, so I told him about fishing at Old Bahama Bay, and him and his son came down April 2014 and went did some bone fishing out there.
Wow, that must have been amazing for them, and
definitely.
That must have been amazing for you.
Yeah.
Now we talked a little bit about work, we talked about cultures. What does Vincent like to do for fun?
Travel. Vincent loves to travel. I love traveling, experiencing new cultures, learning about new places. You know, travel is it for me. You know, and I've always been that way since I was a young guy, and I'm still young, okay. But you know, no, travel has been one of those things where you know you could get away, you could cut your phone off, and just go to just disconnect from all the electronics and sit on a balcony overlooking some you know, countryside and just take it in and just be thankful.